And we are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of MovieCast. I am once again your host, Dana Abercrombie, and I am joined by Richard Bailey Jr. How are you this Sunday afternoon?
Doing pretty good. Uh, there's some construction going on at the house, so hopefully there will not be any interruptions. But yes, I'm doing excellent. How about you, Dana?
I'm breathing, which is a lot. So let's just jump right in here. It's been a very crazy, long week in movie TV time. We got a couple announcements. We got a couple of cancellations. We got a couple reviews. So let's just jump right in this real quick. We got A Quiet Place. We've been knowing that we were going to have a sequel. We knew this about around the time that the first movie dropped, and because it was so successful, um, they announced that there would be a sequel. We just didn't know what kind of sequel that we was going to get, and it seems that we are getting, well, they explain that it's going to be like a part two. It's an overarching series where we might visit different families set up in the Quiet Place universe. It's not viewed as a sequel. John Krasinski, he sat down and he recently gave an interview about it, and he said that it is not really a sequel. It's more like other chapters. And his wife, Emily Blunt, who he's been working with, says that, he's been trying to pitch around different ideas, and it was her idea to say that it's not a sequel at all. It is a second book in a series of books that's widening the world of the Quiet Place universe. And that's how they view is the best way to look at it. It's a continuation of those living in the world. The script has not been fully written yet, so we don't have a plot, but we do know that in the movie, there are different families who are still alive. So we will, check in on them and see what's going on. We don't know what family it is that we're going to see, but just know that there are going to be a multitude of families. So this should be a very interesting and possibly fun universe. Not sure. Did you see the Quiet Place? A Quiet Place?
Oh yeah, that actually was one of the best movies that I have seen this year. So I mean, the way that it ended, I knew that they could have potentially had a sequel, but this is the first time I'm hearing about them having a sequel and focusing on a different family. So I would be very interested to see how they tell that story this time. Um, but yeah, this is fantastic news, because I know when I went to go see it, yeah, it just worked very well with the sound and everything, and the audience was very much into it. So I can't wait to see what they do with this series next.
Me too. And I hope that they make it, very complex and captivating because, yes, the silent film, it worked really well for that story. I just hope they don't keep using that as some type of, you know what I mean, like a crutch or something. And I hope that we get really interesting stories. And I really kind of want to know what happened beforehand. You don't have to go into like a big explanation and make it a whole movie. Just, I kind of want to know what's going on. That would be interesting. And I know what we got, in the first movie, there was a lot of like news clips and the newspaper like scenes and stuff, but it would be interesting to learn what's going on there and whether or not they can get rid of these aliens. So moving on, we have some interesting Star Wars news. Now, those who don't know, we're getting like the whole Star Wars is going to be a new series. It's going to be developed for Disney Plus, which is going to be their streaming service, which is teased at being cheaper than Netflix. We still do not know the price yet, but it's going to be cheaper than Netflix, which I know I'm paying $7.99 for it. I know it goes higher than that, but I'm broke, so I'm paying the $7.99 version. This one is going to be about the Mandalorian, and very interesting. They cast Nick Nolte as, I don't know if he's playing the Mandalorian, but they cast him. Um, it will be very interesting. For those who don't know, the story will follow, after the events of Jango and Boba Fett. It's like another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. It's set after the fall of the Empire, and before the emergence of the First Order, and you end up following Mandalorian, and he's a lone gunfighter in like the outer reaches of the galaxy, and sees what goes on with him. He's going to be in the New Republic. It will consist of 10 episodes in the first season. Hopefully, they don't cancel their shows. We'll get into that later. But is it 10 episodes in the first season that will have a combined budget of $100 million. So each episode will be around $10 million. So this is not a cheap show to put on. Yeah, so this should be very interesting. I know that we also got other limited series where we got Scarlet Witch and Vision, which is called The Vision and Scarlet Witch, and it looks interesting. I will say that it kind of looks like a weird rom com. I hope that it's not a weird rom com where we're stuck with Scarlet Witch and Vision going on, their daily quest, fighting the bad guys, and then coming home and making a salad together and spending the evening. Looks kind of corny, but that's what we are getting. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely would like to see some footage from this upcoming show. I'm sure the Star Wars fans will be happy. More Star Wars content. I feel as though Disney has made a ton of Star Wars movies, and I know that I spoke on this show before saying that I was not a fan of the Han Solo movie, so I'm a little worn out with Star Wars at the moment. But if they show me something that gets me interested, then I will definitely check it out. And again, because this is going to be on Disney streaming service, I feel as though they know they have to put out a high quality product. So I'm very curious to see what direction they go with this show, as well as some of the other ones that they have already announced. But for now, I just need to see it before I can get excited.
Yeah, I think Star Wars just might be their bread and butter. Because, every year we're getting a new Star Wars movie, video games and all these other properties. So might be their bread and butter, but it will be interesting to see what they're able to pull off. I do know that it will launch in late 2019.
Uh-oh.
I just hope we get an actual date. I don't know what's going on, but it seems to be promising. The streaming service seems to be very promising. That and the Scarlet Witch TV series that we're getting, which I'm not sold on yet because again, rom com. But we'll see how that all
Well,
works up.
yeah. I just was going to say, yeah, very, very smart strategy by Disney to release all these movies next year, which I'm 100% certain will be on the Disney streaming service. So they will have a ton of content on that service whenever they decide to launch, and then shortly afterward, because they have a ton of movies coming out. So very good business move for them.
Yeah, very good business indeed. And moving on, we have some more MCU news. It seems that we don't know what's going on with Infinity War Part 2. Only the Russo brothers and those who filmed the movie seem to know. But it appears that Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, is not, maybe, possibly not going to die. I know a lot of people felt that, me included, that the original stars of the Avengers would die in the previous Infinity War. Obviously, that wasn't the case at all. Everyone else died but the originals, which, if you look at it, is kind of really sweet. And I like that because, it started with them. So let's finish it with them. But it seems that they may not be going anywhere. The Russo brothers recently did an interview with the Associated Press, and they said that I think it's more emotional for him than us, only because he's not done yet, and I won't explain what that means, but the audience would soon understand what I'm talking about. So he could very well die. He could maybe retire, and then we can get the TV series like they're doing with Scarlet Witch and Vision about him. So he may not be hanging up his shield after all. I don't know
Well,
how I feel about that.
I personally think I know Chris Evans has done an excellent job in the role. I personally think that And I did say this before with the next Avengers movie. I know, of course, with Infinity War, we got to see a lot of our favorites disappear, and obviously they will return because Black Panther 2 is already in production, as well as these other movies that they have pretty much confirmed are still going to happen. Um, so I want them in the sequel to actually, definitively get rid of some of these other people. Now, if Chris Evans doesn't die, that's fine. I know a lot of fans, they'll be totally fine with that, but then you have to explain what's going to happen with Winter Soldier because either him or I believe his name is Falcon.
Mhm.
They were supposed to replace this guy as Captain America as they did in the comics. So they have to explain whatever the direction is they decide to take with his character. Because I know that the actor, I think his name is Sebastian Stan, who plays Winter Soldier, he's signed on for at least 3 other movies. So yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to do with his character, but with Chris Evans, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Whatever it is that they decide to do, I do know, and this is a bit related to, as far as the movie is concerned, the Russo brothers are actually going to be hosting the Game Awards next week. So I'm very curious to see if something Avengers related is revealed at that show, whether it's the game that Square Enix is working on, or whether it's a possible trailer for the film. Because I find it interesting that they're hosting this show, and yet, they specialize in the movies. They don't have anything to do with the game, so we'll see about that. But Chris Evans, I don't really know how I feel about that either because I do want some important characters to like definitively be gone. Like I know they also said that Loki is definitely done as far as the movies are concerned. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm just curious to know. They got to explain it. How they explain it, I think, is going to make a difference as to whether or not it's going to be accepted by fans.
Well, remember we're getting the Loki TV series, so he's not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. They do have that series.
Yeah, yeah. Or weird thought, maybe they involve the time stone and he goes back and he lives his life with Peggy and we get an adventures of Agent Carter Captain America series or storyline there. I don't know how this time stone works. So
That's possible. Yeah, yeah. I think they with those stones, they can definitely do more, and especially when they've only really introduced one of the stones for the first time in Infinity War, they could definitely do more with that as well. So we have to see how they put this all together.
yes. So also speaking of Thanos really quickly, it's very interesting that the Russo brothers are going on like this whole press tour thing. And one of the very interesting things that they said was that in the first Infinity War, that you go through different drafts of the script, and they went through about 4 different drafts. Very interesting that they said that one of the drafts involved Thanos was narrating the entire movie, and it was a very non-linear story, and it also included backstories for the Black Order, and it came up to around 250 pages, and they couldn't fit everything that they wanted to in it. But by doing that whole writing process is how they got the Thanos backstory with Gamora. And they really wanted to include it, but they was able to include bits and pieces. And I think that from there we got such a wonderful movie as it is. But it's very interesting to learn how, all these different versions, and they all seem cool, and even the one that we got seemed really cool. So it's just very nice insight to the writing process.
Is there a chance that we may see that become a Disney streaming service, like just the backstories of the Black Order, or Marvel they're probably just gonna scrap that all together?
They didn't say, but that would be really interesting. They have stuff that they need to fill up, so that could work. We don't
Yeah,
exactly know everything that's going on with the streaming service of the shows. They're slowly trickling out things, but that would be very interesting. They could use something with that 250 pages and create more content.
yeah. I definitely agree with that. We'll have to see if that's what their long term plans are.
Yes. So moving on, I was not fully aware of this, but we are getting another Kingsman movie, and now it's going to be a prequel. I know you're excited, and it will not involve um, Taron Egerton, whose name I can't pronounce. It will
Oh,
not involve the main guy at all.
oh
It is,
yes.
yes, it's not going to involve. It's going to be a prequel, as I said before, based on the graphic novel series by Mark Miller and Dave Gibbons. Um, what we're going to learn more about is it takes place in the 1900s, which is really interesting, and we're gonna get a lot of backstory about what went on with Harry and what's going on with the other characters. So that should be interesting.
Oh yeah. I did hear about this news. This is one of the reasons why I decided to go see Robin Hood, because I do like that guy in these action roles, and I know that they had an interview where he had said that, yeah, I believe the director told him he would not be in the next movie. However, they are planning to make another movie in Kingsman that they will bring him back, and of course all the other characters that was in the second movie, the Golden Circle. But yeah, I did hear about this, and it could be interesting. I know already know that I believe it's coming out next year. I mean, it's already in development. Is The script is already done for this prequel, so it's coming real soon. I just don't know when exactly it's coming. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, I did hear, and I thought it was interesting of them to take that direction, because I think a lot of people, after they saw Golden Circle, they were very excited for where the franchise could be headed with this other group of people that are now a part of the mix. So yeah, we'll have to wait a little bit longer for that. But prequel is going to be very insightful, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be called The Great Game, and it's going to be about the formation of the Kingsmen, and obviously it's not going to star, as I said previously, Colin Firth, who played Harry Hart, because that's way before his time.
Yes.
But it will have Ralph Fiennes, and it'll have so that should be really interesting. I like him, and it'll have Daniel Bruhl, who, as we all know, was Zemo in Captain America: Civil War,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
that's
it'll
good.
take place during World War I.
That sounds good. Yeah.
So that should be interesting. I don't know. I don't really kind of like feel anything negative or positive. I just the Golden Circle wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't as great as the first one. So I'm kind of like, we'll see.
I yeah, I definitely agree with that. It definitely was not as good as the first movie. I was interesting to see other people now a part of this other order, but they hadn't really done anything with these characters. I know Halle Berry's character didn't really do nothing until towards the end of the film, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure she will have a bigger role in the next movie if they do decide to bring her back. But yeah, the first movie definitely the best movie they've done thus far.
So for anyone interested in that, that will release in theaters on November 8th, 2019.
Oh yeah, see, so this
So
time next year, okay.
time next year, everything's like around the corner. And we're almost done with 2018. How crazy is that?
Yeah, this flew by this year. Yeah, it's been a very interesting year. I cannot wait till we have our discussion of the best and worst movies of 2018.
Yes, that should be fun. And I already think I have my best movie already picked.
Uh-oh.
We'll see, maybe. But moving on, a couple trailers dropped this week. One trailer that I have waited almost 2 years for, 1 year for. Yep, 1 year for is Happy Death Day to You. This is the sequel to the 2017 Happy Death Day, which is going to be amazing. Now, it takes place 2 years after the events of the first movie, okay? So Tree is living her best life. nothing is going on that's crazy. You know, she's loving everything about school, and she's rebuilding relationships and forming her bonds. And then all of a sudden, she re-enters the time loop, and she becomes determined to escape this time loop once again. And those who are not familiar, she dies repeatedly in this time loop, and the goal is to find out who killed her. That's what happened in the first movie, which if you've not seen, I strongly suggest you see it. And once she finds out who the killer is and she stops her death, then she can exit out of the time loop. Well, this time around, she's in this time loop, but she discovers that all of her friends are now involved, meaning that they all die as well. And interesting enough, Laurie Spengler, who was the original killer in the first movie, has now been murdered. So now she has to face a new killer, which means Laurie can't be the killer since she's now dead. She has to face a new killer in order to uncover the identity and break the time loop once again. So this is a really great take on time travel, and I'm excited.
Oh yeah, I have to give the people behind this concept standing ovation because they found a creative way to do a sequel, and it's not the typical. Well, it's once again, it's just focused primarily on the main character. No, because now they involve all the other people that played a role in the first movie to some extent. Now she has to try and save them as well. I think that's an excellent concept. And of course, also the title "Happy Death Day to You." It works perfectly on every level. So I'm looking forward to the movie. I was surprised with the first movie, but I mean, I saw the trailer. I thought it looked hilarious. I went to go see the movie, and I absolutely enjoyed every minute of it. So I look forward to the sequel. Um, I know when I finished watching the first movie, I thought of other people that could have potentially have been the killer. So I'm curious to see if they actually go in that direction with the sequel, and it's another person that may be a little bit closer to her. But yeah, I can't wait for that. February 14th, I will be there.
Yeah. And thinking it could be anyone. It could be the dad.
Yep.
It
Hmm.
could be the teacher that she was cheating with. It could be the wife of the teacher.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
yeah, it literally can be anyone, and that's what makes this so enjoyable. Is like it's also a who done it movie, and it's really smartly done, and it's always very aware of itself, and it's just downright funny as well.
Oh yeah, and I will give a shout out to Mr. Gary Sway because I know he is a 50 Cent fan, so he may see this movie just because of that trailer.
And I do love the usage of the song.
Yes, yes, it works. Absolutely.
It works, and it's one of those songs that you kind of never get tired of, and it just works because you could just put it on a loop.
That's
So
true.
yes,
That's true.
Bloomhouse has been making some really great horror movies.
Oh yes, they've done it. They've been doing an excellent job. So I mean, I'm curious. I'm always curious to see what they do. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
I am as well. Also, we got a trailer for season 2 of Marvel's Runaway, which makes me continue to feel dead inside. I cannot stand this show at all.
Yeah,
This is it was horrible.
I still haven't seen the first season,
Don't
so
don't do it. No, no, no. I got that. Marvel sent the book, the Runaways book. Which thank you, Marvel, but good lord, I've been suffering with it is not their best work. What started out as something really smart and innovative. We get the parents are villains and the kids are trying to defeat their parents, but at the same time it's their parents, and we got badness. It was just not good. I'm sorry. But those who have not seen the trailer or is very excited for season 2, I don't know why, but go right ahead. Um, it's amazing that this show is still on air and all the other shows have been canceled, but we'll get into that later. Those who don't know, in season 2, the Runaways, after an entire season, it's called the Runaways, and it took the very last episode for them to actually run away. So they finally left their homes after dragging out storylines and scenes and episodes for the longest, but they finally ran away from their home, yay, and left their evil parents behind, who really aren't that kind of evil. It's more like a cult, but whatever. So now they have to learn how to live on their own, and they have to scavenge for food and search for shelter. Remember, they're overprivileged and they're kind of spoiled, so this is gonna be really hard for them to do because they're millennials also. So as they search for shelter and take care of one another, they begin to realize that for better or for worse, they're stuck with each other, and it's time for them to take down pride once and for all. That's the cult organization thing with aliens and stuff involved. However, someone sent a mysterious message to Jonah, and they want to know, is there a mole in the runaways? Now that could be interesting, the mole part. Meanwhile, Pride, the organization, is focused on finding their kids, and Jonah has his own dangerous plan in mind. Maybe it involves killing the kids. I wouldn't mind a couple deaths. That would be kind of cool. So that is what's going on in season 2, and I still feel nothing. How about you?
Well, after hearing what you had to say about season 1, my guess is after looking at that trailer that it's going to take the final episode of season 2 before they actually have the confrontation with the parents, so they can drag out everything even further. Um, but no, I mean, the trailer looks okay, I guess, but I haven't seen the first season, so I don't.
No, and I love Marvel. I really do. And I want Marvel to succeed. But you can't be perfect all the time. In Humans, we all knew that. That was a mess. And with Marvel's Runaways, it's just not good. And it shows that Marvel is human. They can make mistakes at times, and it's okay.
Well, hopefully, if Marvel does take that advice, they don't need to have all these shows. Um, just focus on what they do, what they're good at, and leave it at that. They don't need to have all these additional deals. I know this is a show that's on Hulu, so on and so forth. But if you cannot come up with a good concept for a good show, I just would just don't bother. Just focus on making everything else that's already good even better.
See, the concept is good. The fact that your parents are the villains and they're killing people. The thing is that in the first season, it's about, they I'm describing this probably terribly just because, I suffered through it. So yeah. Um Essentially, Pride is like this big cult organization and it's full of aliens. And they have to sacrifice kids to their main leader so that he can regain his strength and regain his powers. And basically, they're child killers. That to me, right there, is a very interesting concept. And the kids find this out and they have to run away because their parents are murderous and they don't want to be involved in that. That right there is just a great concept and it's original. That's what really drew me to it. The problem is that the execution is not that great. One of the actors or actresses, I will say, is just really bad in her scenes, and that doesn't make it as great as well. The writing could be a lot stronger. The acting overall could be a lot stronger. There is the randomness of the dinosaur, which has a very cool aspect of it. But
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, so you have dinosaurs, you have aliens, you have witches, and if you want to say voodoo, maybe some voodoo thrown in there. So to me, it just seems like you have a lot of things that you're trying to balance at once, and as a result, nothing gets executed well. So, on a positive note, maybe they will learn from their mistakes and season 2 will be much stronger. I will not be watching, but maybe season 2 will be a lot stronger. And I don't want this to fail. I don't want any type of property to fail unless you're just really that awful. So maybe there is some type of hope and positivity that will happen. I don't know because I will not be checking in to find out.
Uh-oh.
Season 1 was enough for me. I'm old, and you gotta value the time that you have on this earth as it is. You can't be
This is
giving
true.
away, 10 hours too. a show that didn't prove itself the first time around.
This is true.
So, yay if you are a Runaways fan. It's just not for everyone. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Moving on, we have another trailer where we had the first trailer finally dropped for the Deadpool PG-13 version, which I kind of am very much interested in. It's called Once Upon a Deadpool. Um, and it's amazing how the fact that they involved Fred Savage in it and the very opening of the trailer is very reminiscent and a callback to The Princess Bride, which is a phenomenal movie that has ever existed. I just love this movie very much so. So the thing is that Fred Savage, and you see it in the trailer, he's an adult, and Ryan Reynolds, who plays Deadpool, he's reading him a bedtime story. He's reading Fred Savage a bedtime story, much like they did in The Princess Bride, and Fred Savage is, he's about to start cursing him out, but he puts his little finger to his mouth and censors him because this is the PG-13 version. So once again, the trailer is very well aware of itself, like the actual Deadpool comic, and this seems to be very interesting where we get to see, Deadpool explains to Fred Savage exactly what's going on and that he is trying to read him the story of Deadpool too, but through a filtered prism of childlike innocence. And Savage isn't really happy with that answer, but too bad. You're gonna have to deal with it like the rest of us. So its goal is to open up the movie to an all new audience of people who really stick to not showing their kids rated R material, I guess, because I don't know, but great way to make money, and also it has a good message behind it because for every ticket sold, $1 will go to F Cancer, which is a fund that is to help eliminate and help with cancer research. So that should be a very good concept. And even though it's called F Cancer, they had to change it to Fudge Cancer because
I didn't know about that part.
yes, the Fudge Cancer. So it's
That's
it's, it's really really great. I like it.
so
Anyhow,
so so yeah. I definitely I have to agree. I do like the fact that they're doing that campaign for that particular cause. So that's great. I am a Fred Savage fan. I love the Wonder Years growing up. So that was one of the shows that I did watch as I was growing up, and I was very fond of. So glad to see him being used in this capacity for this particular movie. But I do have to say this, and this might be a little controversial. Um, I think that Deadpool as an R-rated character that just fits the character absolutely better than anything else. Now I know that this is going to be more of a a lot more comedy. And don't get me wrong, the trailer it was funny. I thought they had the joke about Up. I thought that was hilarious. So I will still check it out, but I do have some concerns over how Marvel is going to use this character moving forward, and we'll get into this discussion a little bit later because I feel the same for another property that has now officially been canceled. I just feel like with Deadpool as the R-rated movies, I think they would work well, and I think the character shouldn't be censored because just like in the comics, the character isn't censored. So I do have concerns, but I will at least see this movie just to see how much of it is toned down for kids. Um, but I do think Ryan Reynolds is excellent for the role, so I mean it'll still be somewhat enjoyable. But I just I have to see how this actually turns out as a final product because I do still have concerns that it's going to be a little bit too toned down, and the characters not shouldn't be toned down at all because how he was represented before is just that's how he should be as a character. But that's just my opinion. So we'll see how Once Upon a Deadpool turns out.
well, I know that we're getting new scenes, and I think it would be really interesting if Deadpool knows that he's in a PG-13 movie and he
Yeah,
just runs around censoring everyone.
yeah.
So that should just be really smart. And also, we'll get new scenes. So that should be really fun as well. And I love how the fact that they did the marketing with Fred Savage. He's saying, "My participation in this film was anything but voluntary. I am happy to learn that Fudge Cancer will be the beneficiary to the shameless cash grab." So they're very aware of themselves and what they're
Oh,
doing.
whoa, whoa, oh, that's what he said.
Yeah, that's how it's advertised. So,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
I gotta check this
they
out.
know exactly what they're.
It's but here's a question: It's limited release in theaters, right, or is this on DVD? Because
No, this is limited release in theater. It will open it on December 12th. That's
okay,
how they can get their money for the Fudge Cancer.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Which was a very huge part in the Deadpool movies because he had cancer.
absolutely, yes. So it is a
So
smart campaign.
it's so
It,
smart. That's what I love about this. This is not like something that's just ridiculous. Like, oh, let's just convert this into 3D and mess type of thing. This is really smart what they're doing, and so I'm for it. Actually, I don't know if I'll actually see it.
whoa.
No, no, I'll see it. No, not even like a bad thing, but just there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of movies.
Yeah,
But
that
if
that
I get
same week,
around to seeing it, I would see it.
that same week, it's about 3 or 4 movies coming out on the
Yeah,
14th. So that's interesting timing.
yeah. So yeah, nothing like negative or anything. It's not like Runaways. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I just probably won't get to see it in theaters.
I got you.
Yes. So we have the box office report.
Uh-oh.
I know, and you have not known this. I love surprising you when it comes to this.
Yeah, this definitely will be a surprise because I didn't check the numbers, so this is gonna be interesting.
And interesting for everything.
Yeah.
So, number one, we have not really a surprise, but it's Ralph Breaks the Internet. It took home $25 million with a total gross so far of 119 million.
Wow. That's
Hmm?
excellent. That's
Uh,
excellent.
yeah. And holding strong at number two, because last week it was number three, is Dr. Seuss The Grinch with 17 million.
Mm, interesting.
Creed Creed 2 is number three, which means that it got bumped off the number two spot. So it switched places with the Grinch with
Well,
16.8 million.
no offense to Michael B. Jordan, but that had to happen. So I'm glad that dropped down. But we'll see about the others.
And I'm really shocked at number four. It's still steady at number four. I'm kind of shocked about it because of like the hate from the pure fans of Harry Potter, but Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald is 11.2 million. So it
Hmm.
made a total of 134 million with a budget of 200 million, but I'm sure it'll easily surpass that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Number five, still really shocked about this, still at number five, is Instant Family with 7.1 million.
So yeah, I did see that actually. That was still selling out yesterday when I went to the movie theater. So that's great. That's great news. So I
Yeah.
have to check that out at some point.
But it's a holiday time, and that's a really great movie to watch with the family because it's literally about family.
That's a very good point. Absolutely agree with that.
So, number seven is a new movie, which is The Possession of Hannah Grace with 6.5 million.
Hmm.
Not many
Interesting.
people know about that movie. I just know about it because the actress who stars in it is from Lifetime's You, and I loved You so much.
Oh, okay. She's in that. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
At number eight, which means that it was number seven last week, was your favorite movie of all time, Robin Hood, with 4.7 million. That's it's considered a bomb.
Oh
This
yeah.
movie has bombed.
Now like I said last week, I don't think the movie is absolutely horrible, but they should not have released around all these other movies because it's way too many movies now. Everyone don't have the AMC A list state like I do, because I can see 12 movies for a whole month, but everyone don't have that, and these tickets are expensive, so I
Mhm.
would have released it at another time of the year when it wasn't quite as crowded. Like I don't know, maybe I don't know. when would have been the best time to release it. But yeah, it definitely is a bomb if it's only made that much.
It's the second bomb of the year. The first bomb went to a Billionaires Boy Club with Kevin Spacey. Remember that had $26.
Oh yeah, that's
26 whole dollars. Yeah. So
ouch.
second bomb. Number 9, which was number 8 last week, is Widows, which again was just poor timing, with 4.4 million, which a grand total of 33 million. So
Yeah,
poor timing.
that's bad timing. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And finally, to the number 10 spot is Green Book with 3.9 million, which only gathered 14 million so far.
And what is the budget that they spent on Green Book? Did it go past the budget, or is it still it didn't quite make what it needed to make numbers
No,
wise?
Green Book, their budget was 23 million. So no.
All right. Well, I know that movie has been releasing in limited release. Some places, that's one of those things where it wasn't like a worldwide release because I know it was out earlier a few places, and then it finally came here. But yeah, that's unfortunate. More people need to see that movie. I really don't understand. But again, the timing, I guess, it's about
Yeah.
the timing of the release.
And because this is Richard's favorite movies, 16 and 17 went to Nobody's Fool and Venom. I
No,
know how much you love that movie.
hey, oh no, Nobody's Fool, no, no, that was not one of my favorite movies. And Venom, I mean, I'm surprised that Venom is even still on in the top 20. So, because I mean, I thought it was already out of theaters. So,
I'm surprised at just how many people abandon it. It's so sad. Like, gosh, it wasn't that bad. It was a nice little rom-com with Venom and Eddie.
yeah, I saw they released the trailer of the DVD. That is an excellent way to a video that they released on that trailer for that DVD to make you think it's a love story between Eddie Brock and Venom. So I have to give them props on that.
Yes. So that is everything that has happened with the box office so far, which is, kind of expected. Nice little Christmas movies and family movies and stuff. So,
I,
yeah.
yeah, I do want to make a quick prediction that I mean there's a lot of movies coming out, not so much this upcoming week, but in December. So I definitely expect Bumblebee to be in that top 3 when it comes out. As well as well, there's a lot of movies. I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but Bumblebee will definitely be in that top 3 the opening weekend, even though other movies are coming out at the same time. Because I know I will actually be seeing that movie next week, so I will talk about that on the next show. But yeah,
He's very excited about Bumblebee all week long. Oh my God, Bumblebee! China! I can't wait to not see you. Yeah. Really excited about this. But yeah. As a nice little segue into what box office, the movie that I think is going to be the biggest blockbuster ever is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I was very lucky and grateful and happy to have seen earlier this week. I also interviewed the cast and the director, one of 3 directors, which is on the website now. This movie is hands down for me so far movie of the year,
uh-oh.
best animated movie ever,
Oh, whoa. Woo.
best uh, Black Hispanic movie that's ever existed, uh, best movie about a 13-year-old boy, uh, best movie to just exist. This deserves all of the Oscars and Critics' Choice and whatever other movie awards that there is. It deserves all of them. This is, my God, grown men in the theater was crying, and it has one of the most significant Stan Lee cameos ever, which is basically the passing of the torch to Miles Morales. And oh my gosh. So those who should know already, because this we've been talking about this movie forever. The trailers have been around. It was really big at Comic Con. It was big at both San Diego and New York Comic Con. It was big at CinemaCon. It's just big in general, period. Um, this is a movie that will change how you see Spider-Man, and those who are true like die-hard Spider-Man fans, you will love everything that they've done with this movie simply because they have acknowledged everything that is part of the Spider-Man lore. This is not, obviously, it focuses on Miles Morales, but it focuses on the other Peter Parkers. So, those who don't know, this will be spoiler free.
Uh-oh.
Miles Morales is a Hispanic African American teenager, around 13, 14 years old, living in Brooklyn, and he attends the Science Academy, and he's new there and he doesn't really like it. He misses his old hood, he misses his old school, he just misses his life. And now he's thrust upon in this new environment, and the only person that he can really like hold on and talk to is his uncle. His uncle, who is played by Marshall, I am going to butcher this name like I always do, Marshall Ali,
Hmm.
which I'm sure I've just butchered again. But he plays the uncle, and he takes him under his wing. And you just talk to somebody about the things that you love and the things that you don't like. And was able to help him to put all of his energy and everything, all of his emotions into his artwork. And Miles, he is an amazing artist, and he does a lot of graffiti. And his father is a cop, which kind of means you can't run around doing illegal graffiti everywhere. But his uncle is able for him to find a place where he is able to express himself and to do his graffiti without his father knowing. Some things you can't tell your parents everything. So he tells his uncle essentially everything. And during that time, he's bitten by a radioactive spider, much like the whole Peter Parkers. Um, so there's similarities in that. But he goes on about his life until he wakes up one day like all the other Peter Parkers and discovers that, oh my gosh, I am Spider-Man. Now, it's very important to also mention that Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, the white one that we all know and loved for many decades, he is also in this universe. He is the first Spider-Man, and he believes that he is the only Spider-Man at first. However, he ends up meeting Miles, and things occur that is very unfortunate. In the midst of all of this, Fisk is out there creating a time machine that is meant to open up different dimensions and portals so that he is able to accomplish something that's very near and dear to him, and also very sad and heartbreaking. It's not something where I'm just going to be the villain and here's my plot. William Fisk is giving a backstory, much like you've seen in Daredevil, which we'll get into later, that, you feel very sympathetic for him, but he is going about this the wrong way. And he has to learn how to let go of a situation before he makes it even worse. But in the midst of that, he opens up this dimension where it's different worlds and different spider people and animals, spider people and animals exist in their own different worlds. So consider it like, the Flash, how there's multiple Earths, consider it like that. In the midst of meeting all of this, all of these spider people and animal ends up in Miles Morales's and Peter Parker's world. Miles Morales then has to rely on these other spider people and animal, because there is Spider Pig that's in here, so that's why I'm saying spider animal. And there is Gwen Stacy, who plays Spider Woman, so spider people. And there's also a Japanese version. She plays one of the girls. She's a Japanese girl. There is Spider Noir, who is played by Nicolas Cage, who I'm just so happy that he's alive. And his voice sounds so good, and he plays it so well. It gives like this kind of James Cagney feel to it. Um, so anyway, he has to basically meet up with all of these different spider people and animal to figure out a way to get everyone back to their dimension and to also stop William Fisk, who wants to reopen the portals again, but as a result, he can end up collapsing all of the universes and everyone is erased from history. Now, one of the things that makes it very pressing is that the longer that the spider people stay on in Miles Morales' world, they end up disappearing. So there's a time like a time crunch for them to get back to their world. There's spider people from the future, there's the past, there's them in the present, and he has to work together with all of them to stop William Fisk and to figure out how to reopen the dimensions so that they can get back to their own spider verses. In the middle of all of this, Peter Parker, who's not on Miles Morales' Earth, but from another Earth, um, he has to teach Miles Morales how to be Spider-Man because he's thrusted into this whole world and you have all these superpowers. Now, Miles Morales' superpowers differ from the other spider people and Pig, where he is able to go completely invisible, so camouflage, and he is able to create energy, which gives like an electric shock. So he has to learn how to balance out his new world and these powers, and also balance life out at home because his parents are kind of worried about him because he's before even these powers emerged. He's been very distant. He doesn't like his new neighborhood. He doesn't like where he's, everything that's going on in his life. And he's also, very close to his, like I said previously, to his uncle, which his father respects, but he also wants that close bond, and he doesn't really fully understand why you're going to your uncle instead of me. In the middle of that, his uncle is going through his own set of problems or a situation as well that ends up being a much larger story in this whole universe. One of the things that's really interesting, that's wonderful about this, is that all of the Spider-Man and people and Pig have their own backstory. So one of the Peter Parkers, for example, divorced Mary Jane. So we're not used to that. Him and Mary Jane, they just couldn't work it out. She wanted kids, he didn't want kids. So as a result, they kind of just went their separate ways. Another one is dealing with, the death of the father. So everyone is dealing with kind of the same themes with a death, but they change it up very significantly. But they still keep it familiar with each other. So those who knows the Spider-Man universe and the storyline, they're very easy to follow. Not everyone's name is Uncle Ben. Not everyone's uncle dies. They lose different people in their lives that changes them, but it's not the same person. Like, oh yeah, my Uncle Ben died too. Mine did too. Nothing like that. And Spider Pig, he just exists to exist. But it's done hilariously, and it's very self-aware, and it's very funny, and it's charming, and it has this very rich storyline where it's brilliant. And the animation, it is literally, if you was to open up a comic book and jump into that comic book, that is what Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is. It is a literal comic book movie where they're able to get the textures and the colors and even, the talking little bubbles part of it. They're able to get that, and it is rich and it is diverse, and you have, it's written by the same guys who did the Lego movie. These are two white corny guys. If you've ever met them or seen them, we're going to be honest, they're really kind of corny, which is, not knocking your cornness. The story is by Phil Lord, and also is going to be produced by Chris Miller, the Lego guys. They're really corny. They're really white. It feels like a very authentic Black Hispanic character where they are playing Biggie in there. They're playing, other urban music, and you just feel, what's his name? The guy from Atlanta. Donald Glover, who's a huge inspiration behind Miles Morales and his creation back in 8 years ago, I believe it was first created, the Miles Morales comic book. It has a very Donald Glover type feel, and he's a little tiny cameo thing in there as well. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you look really hard, there's an Easter egg. It is brilliant. Grown men were crying. There are 2 after credits that you just don't leave the movie at all. Just stay in the theater. Don't ever leave. There are 2 after credits. One that will have you crying because it's Stan Lee related, and the other one, which is, I cannot tell you what it is, but it teases a possible other universe. There are 2 universes that are teased. One is funny, and the other one is like, oh my god, I don't believe they did that. So this is one of the best movies I have ever seen, and it's one of those movies where it's like, I'm honored to still be alive to see this movie. And I recommend you take anyone, everyone, start randomly picking people off the streets and be like, we're going to the theater. We're going to go see this movie. That's how brilliant and beautiful and rich and different it is compared to other animated studios. Sony, I know a lot of people complain and be like, oh my God, this is their best Spider-Man movie ever. So I strongly recommend it. I was able to interview Shamik Moore, who plays Miles Morales, who does an incredible job with it. Brian Tyree Henry, who's Paperboy from Atlanta, he plays the dad. And also, let's talk about the family. How different it is to see an African American family and African Hispanic, family. They're depicted, they're a 2-parent household. And Miles is surrounded by love. Many times we have, oh, that's just the baby mama. The dad ain't there. Somebody's doing drugs on the side. No, not at all. They're a 2-parent home. They speak Spanish in this movie. That's just how incredible. They give it very rich to the culture, and it plays, the storyline plays into their culture, and it's just beautiful to see something so diverse. So a beautiful family dynamic. And Brian Tyree Henry, we see him in Paperboy, and he's been in Widows, and we kind of seen him as like this hard character, or even in Atlanta where he doesn't really say much. And this here, you feel like he's America's dad. He feels like he's everyone's dad. Or if you don't have a dad, you want him to be your dad. He's just always there. He's kind, he's caring, he's loving. He doesn't necessarily judge you, but he will point out, maybe you can do something better this time than the next time. So that's what I love about him. And I also was able to interview Peter Ramsey, who is one of the 3 directors of the film. And they worked really hard on the visuals. It took them years to even figure out what kind of visuals they want. And you have to wait for the technology to even, be created to do something like this. And luckily enough, the technology was finally around. And listen to the interview, and they talk heavily about, Stan Lee and his presence and what he means to them and to the Spider-Man universe. So he was there. Stan Lee gave them not only their blessing, but made sure that everything, turned out right. And it did. I think, I don't know, I'm not Stan Lee, but I think he would have made him very proud. I don't know whether or not he was able to see the final cut of the movie, but it's one of those things where, like I said, everyone on the planet should go see this movie. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So yeah, go see it.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely planning to see that opening weekend. Already picked out the theater because the theater that I'm gonna go to has the Dolby surround sound. So definitely going to check that out.
I was able to see it in IMAX, so it's worth it. It is worth it. I was able to see it in IMAX, and we had little kids in the audience, like little tiny kids that come up to your kneecap. And one of the things was like, oh gosh, this is gonna be really bad because kids, they're loud, they cry, they're emotional. There was not a single sound from them. That's how deeply captivated they were in this movie. They had one little kid like who started screaming, "Yeah, Spider-Man, go get him! Yay, Miles!" The kids loved it, and they're one of the kind of people you have to. They're good for judging movies sometimes. 'Cause if they don't have your attention, you will know.
That's true.
So that's what I loved. I loved it with all of my heart. And, I just may say it's the best movie of the year. It might be my number one pick. So we'll see. But I know, Rich, you recently seen Green Book. So let us talk about Green Book.
Uh-oh. So, Green Book. Well, this is one of the movies that we already mentioned on the box office numbers. I mentioned this is a movie that I hope more people will go watch because, and I must confess that prior to seeing this movie, I didn't know anything about the history of the person that they highlighted in the movie. This is very similar to Hidden Figures. I didn't know anything about the people, the women that were involved in that movie, and then I went to see that movie. I was blown away. So going to see this movie, um, obviously this is a different type of movie, but it's still such a excellent story. So for those who don't know, it is about Dr. Don Shirley. He was a world class African American pianist. This is during the 1960s. And basically, he needs a driver and protection because he's taking a concert tour throughout the Deep South. So he enlists the help of Tony Lip, which is this is a Italian American guy who basically he used to be a bouncer at one of the clubs in the Bronx. But he basically takes him on this journey, and they're going throughout the Deep South. They go to these different venues where he is playing at, and I don't want to really talk about any spoiler material in this particular thing because I want people to go out and support and see this movie. But basically, the movie is about their relationship, how it develops. And if you know about that particular time period, you know that segregation was a major thing that was going on during that particular time. So there's a lot of discussions about race, about a lot about just coming to your own identity as to the type of person that you are, because some of the characters do have some demons in their closet. Um, but really, it's about their relationship that grows over time, and basically how they interact with each other throughout the trip. It's a really really good movie, not only to show how messed up things were during that time period, and I would still say to an extent how things are messed up in today's world because there's still racism out here. You may not see it, quite up in front in certain instances, depending on where you're at, but it's still out there today. But yeah, it's a great movie for highlighting the struggles that people had to deal with back in the day, but also just to highlighting the unlikely bonds that can be formed just from you making, accepting somebody for who they are and learning more about them. So I very much enjoyed the movie. Of course, Marshall Ali, and I may have said the name incorrectly, so I must apologize. But this guy is a phenomenal actor. I enjoyed all the work that he did as Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. Of course, he's been in all these other movies. He was in Spider-Man, as you mentioned, so I look forward to seeing what he does in that movie. I mean, he seems to be getting a lot of excellent roles, not just in the live action movies, but also the animated films. So I really like his work. And of course, Viggo Mortensen, who was in Lord of the Rings. Ever since he was in Lord of the Rings, I liked him. I did see A History of Violence a long time ago, but I think there's an okay movie, not excellent, but I do like him as an actor. And I was curious what he was going to bring to the table in this movie, and I thought that he did a good job with what he was handed. Uh, Definitely put on some pounds. I don't know if that was for this particular role, but yeah, he he looks different than when he looked when he was in Lord of the Rings. That's for certain. But yeah, just a great movie. A movie that I definitely would highly recommend everybody goes out and watches because you may learn something from it. And then again, my main takeaway from the movie is that now I didn't know about this particular guy prior to. this movie. So now I feel as though I've learned something. I've now gone back and tried to see his history even more and some of the music that he's done. So definitely great in those regards, and something that I will highly recommend people check out whenever they can, as soon as possible.
Well, that seems, yeah, yeah, it's a very good movie. I had a couple issues with it, but overall, it's a good movie.
Uh oh.
No,
Is it okay to ask what the issues were without spoiling anything?
my issues was just how I expected it to be more tension once they got down to the South, because it always seems to be something that you're waiting for, especially with the fact where you have to hire a white guy to protect you.
Yeah.
So I just thought that it could have been more tense and we could have seen more of that. There is a really great shot though, where remember they're arguing and they're near the field and you see
Oh
the
yes.
workers on the plantation
Hmm.
and you see Marshala as this black upstanding man in this very regal attire and these people who are working on the plantation and how it's very similar back to slavery. So I really like that imagery. But I just felt overall we could have seen a lot more intensity, especially going to the South, like Mississippi and Alabama.
Oh yeah. Um, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything. There was some stuff that happened that I do think was a little tense, but I'm not going to spoil that for those who haven't seen the movie. We will have to revisit this discussion in the future. Um, but yeah, they certainly could have played it up a lot more. Uh, I am glad though that they did make this film, and the timing of the film is also great, but also it's coming out at a time where there are a lot of other movies out. So I don't really think a lot of people are going to make the time to see this movie. I would like to hope that people will eventually see it though, because yeah, I think it was good. And again, it I think for me personally, it informs me on somebody who I didn't know. I didn't do the history on this guy before. So after you see a movie like this, then you're curious about what he did, the music that he made, so on and so forth. So I definitely appreciated that. But I do hope people do give it a chance to check it out whenever they have an opportunity to do so.
Yep, absolutely. Indeed.
Yes,
And I know that you've seen another movie, but it's a secret movie.
I did see a secret movie. Once again, I will not give any spoilers for this movie, but I will say this: I went to go see the Possession of Hannah Grace. Yes, because people do not know, and I will confirm. I am a fan of horror movies. I did go see The Nun back in September when that came out because of the people that were in that movie. I very much like the actress in that movie because she was in American Horror Story. So that movie, though, was still disappointing to an extent. But I like how they tied it to another movie. But this particular movie, I went into this movie not really knowing what to expect. All I know is that it was a horror film, so I was somewhat interested in checking it out. Now the actress Shay Mitchell, who you mentioned, she does an excellent job in the movie. I think. Um, Essentially, it is about the premise is that it's about a girl that is possessed, and they attempt to do an exorcism on her that does not go quite as planned. So eventually, we have a situation where the character, Shays Mitchell character, eventually she starts working at a morgue. So she basically takes on that job of every time there's a dead body comes through, she has to, examine the body, so on and so forth. But she does this job during the night shift, like one of those. And if you ever work a third shift, like I have done that before, I would recommend that you definitely avoid that at all costs because you basically going in at like 11 at night. You don't leave until 7 in the morning. That shift is pure hell. Well, it was for me personally, but she does that. She basically, works at this morgue, and what just so happens that one of the bodies that does come in is of this girl that was possessed. So there's quite a bit of things that started to happen as a result of her body being coming into the morgue. So as far as it being a scary movie, it's one of those movies where it's just a lot of jump scares, and I'm a little worn out with the jump scare thing because I feel like there are other ways that you can scare people. It shouldn't always have to be a jump scare, but this movie had a couple of them in there. And of course, it also had something that I did not like, where you know there's one character in this movie. I will go ahead and admit, I don't like to see people of a certain ethnicity get killed in movies. Well, something to that effect does happen in this movie, and I was not happy to see that. But again, things happen, for what it's worth. But in regards to the movie itself, I have to say it was definitely disappointing. I would say it was worse than The Nun, and I even think The Nun was disappointing, but still, The Nun had a good cast, some interesting things. Shay Mitchell did a great job in this movie. There was some comic relief in there that was also great, but overall, the movie is just disappointing. I would not recommend anybody spend any money to go see this movie. I'm not going to say it was the worst movie that I have seen of 2018. Don't worry, I will get into that in more detail later on this month. But no, the movie is definitely not anything that I would recommend. Even if you are a fan of these movies where people are getting possessed and stuff like that, no, I would avoid this. If you absolutely have to see it, I would wait for it to come out on Netflix. I would not spend the money to go see it at a theater. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the possession of Hannah Grace. Don't get possessed and go to the box office and get a ticket. Don't do that. Wait to see it on Netflix if you have to see it. But I do think that this is a movie that definitely should have came out during, I don't know, say October when Halloween season came, because that would have definitely helped it to get a lot more attention. Because even when I saw this movie, I never heard of this movie, so I saw that it was new in the theater. I said, let's go check this out. And no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't waste your time.
So what you're saying is that it's the movie of the year. Okay.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I mean, for those that want a horror movie, they want to see a good horror movie. I would tell them, go see Overlord. Overlord was fantastic. Hell, even go see A Quiet Place. Quiet Place, that has to be one of the best horror movies this year. It has to be close to being the best if it's not the best. But no, I would avoid Possession of Hannah Grace. 100% avoid that.
Okay. Well noted. One of the movies that I was able to see this week, I am legally allowed to say, "Hey, I've seen Aquaman." I am also not legally allowed to tell you the review. That will come next week. But I am legally allowed to talk about the interview. Yesterday, Warner Brothers held a huge and very lovely press conference filled with lots of yummy food. It was sad that there was no seafood, but yummy food to talk about Aquaman. On the stage, they had Patrick Wilson, Amber Heard, obviously Jason Momoa, and the director, James Wan. And I will say that with the interview, they talked about the complexities of shooting this movie. This movie, everything is underwater in the movie. However, what is very interesting is that filming the movie itself, it's dry to wet, which is exactly what it sounds like, meaning that a lot of the underwater scenes were filmed on they were dry land, dry spots in the studio, so that they could add the special effects of water later on. um, and this is because you kind of look dry when you're underwater, so they didn't want to, my thought was that they submerged everyone in like this tank and they would do the movements, which is what they did. But the film itself, when it came to a lot of dialogue and a lot of there's a lot of action sequences that I can say because we saw the trailer. So there are action sequences, and that part is filmed dry in the studio. What they did instead was just dump a lot of water onto the actors and actresses to give that effect. This was a very complicated type of filming, and anything that you do with water consists of a lot of days of shooting, a lot of night shooting. But James Wan felt that he got everything that he needed for the role. When it came to Jason Momoa, who I will say it looks exactly how he does in real life. In real life, he looks exactly how he does in TV. He's big, strong, strapping guy. Very interesting though. He looks like a man who doesn't believe in bathing, except for when he's in ocean. So he has like this really like his clothes kind of look, beat up and dingy and old and you know, and it's really interesting next to Amber Heard who came in with this very well tailored suit, and you see this guy who's looked like he threw on something from like last year that hasn't really his hair, he looks like he just got out of the ocean talking to some fish. He's literally is Aquaman. You see him in person, you're like, yeah, that's Aquaman. Um, with the movie, I can say is that he wanted to make Aquaman someone that you would stop making fun of because you've seen all those memes and the old cartoons. He really wanted it to be a very serious character, um, and also having a lot of fun with it. He said that he was very excited to just be able to speak English through the whole movie, which, those who follow Games of Thrones, he's speaking, the other language and stuff. So he's very happy about it. So he was very lighthearted. He wanted to take on, this role because he felt that it was something that was needed. And also to be a character who is of mixed race and an actor who is of mixed race, I believe, I'm not sure about the accuracy of this, but he is the first Asian American superhero. He labeled himself as. Again, I don't know the accuracy of that. But he was very happy to take on the role because of that and what it meant to his people and his community where he came from. Um, with the movie, he would, it talked a lot about Justice League and how, he really felt at home with Justice League and how much he enjoyed being on that set, and he wanted that happiness to kind of translate into Aquaman. Also with Amber Heard, she was able to work with all these big strapping men, but as we've seen also in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything, she is able to fight right alongside of them. And they took her under their wing. And, she was able to train for like, it was like 4 months, 6 days a week straight. So it really changed her body and her entire life and everything of how she viewed things. So, she was very happy about that. And she really wanted to be kind of like someone that women and children can look up to. Patrick Wilson, who is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. He plays the brother. He's kind of like this villainous role. He was really shocked that they gave him the role, but again, he was very happy that he was able to get it, and he had a very enjoying time filming with everyone. And he was kind of shocked that he got the role, as I said previously. And Jason Momoa was saying that, he would expect Patrick Wilson to be cast as Aquaman, because if you ever looked at the old cartoons and the comics, he looks more like Aquaman than Jason Momoa. But they was really happy to work on their dynamic. The only person who wasn't there was William Dafoe. He was not there. I can't say anything about him because that would be spoiler territory. But I will say that the film opens up pretty soon, and you guys should be able to watch it. Also, it was very interesting. Was able to see a lot of the costumes. They brought the whole like set pieces and a lot of the costumes there as well, and how they were just made. So some of the costumes were made really well, and some kind of looked like, not saying that they look like Party City in the movie, but you get a different feel and a different look at things when you see it in person as compared to on the theater in the theater. Um yeah, so there are a lot of pieces that he had to wear, and the whole trident thing was there. So that's all I can say about that. But Aquaman will release very soon, and I will be able to talk about it more. I can't exactly say much, but can talk about that as well later on.
I had a question I wanted to ask, but I don't know if you are legally allowed to answer that question, so I may have to ask you that off air.
What's the question?
the trailers that we have seen of Aquaman, does the trailer essentially reveal most of the movie? Because I know we spoke about this before on this show, how when the trailer gets released now, it pretty much shows everything in the movie, and then you go to the movie, you're like, well, damn, I already saw all of this.
You mean the Black Panther underwater trailer?
Uh, yeah. What was
The
that?
storyline of Black Panther just basically underwater. That trailer.
Yeah.
Yes and no. There are some twists that happen, but it's not exact. There are twists that happen, so
Okay.
it's not exactly. I'm going to tell everything that's from the trailer.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And does the same apply to Spider-Man?
Oh God, no. Spider-Man,
Okay.
there's so many different plot twists and things that are going on that no. The trailer gives you the essence of the movie. But,
Okay.
to actually see the movie is just it's like, oh man.
Okay. This is good. This is good to hear. This is very good to hear.
Yeah, no. It gives you like the essence. It just gives you a rundown of who you could expect in the movie, but it doesn't really fully tell you everything that's in the movie. There is an amazing um character who is in the Spider-Man universe that's just so badass when you see that character not depicted that way before. So
Mm.
no, there are so many different things that are going on and twists and turns and oh no, no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Awesome. Awesome to
Mm.
hear.
So yeah, that that is all I can say about that. And also very interesting. I was able to interview the cast of If Bill Street Could Talk.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing that.
Yes. That I can actually say something about that movie. Yeah, I'm not embargoed. So I can say, because it's been around for a while, so there's been in a lot of film festivals, that it is literally like listening to poetry. It's an artistic poetry. It's so beautiful and visual, and the words, they changed some things as from the book. They changed a lot of things as from the book. But not Steve, Barry Jenkins, who's the director and writer, was able to pull out a lot of James Baldwin's like essence of him and create very beautiful but tragic script with just superb acting. It is artistically so beautiful. It's like watching someone, it's not going to make any sense. It's like watching someone paint poetry. Not sure if that makes any sense at all. I'm going to just get really bougie and artistic and say like, yeah, it's like watching someone paint a picture with just jazz music in the back. It's beautiful. It's sad. It's tragic, and it has world class acting and actors and actresses in it. And I was able to speak to Regina King. I kind of bombed the whole interview. I was very prepared, and how you think you're able to like talk for like when I do phone interviews, it's literally like 15 minutes, which can be a lot. When you do it in person, it's literally 3 minutes.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there with like 10 questions, and it's 3 minutes. And it's 3 minutes also includes their answers. And they can be long winded answers. And then to meet Regina King, someone that I've followed since forever, I'm just like, humana, 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 you look really pretty. I like your hair. And I'm like, just I watched you when I was a kid, and the whole thing just kind of imploded. But she is beautiful. Coleman Domingo, who plays the father, I was able to interview him and kind of like hamina 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 as well. He is superb, and if anyone follows his work, especially back in when he did Broadway, he did Passing Strange. He's a very emotional actor. He pours out his emotions. He will literally, not saying literally isn't like I don't know if he would cut his wrist, but like cut his wrist and bleed for you for his performance, that kind of way.
Mm.
So it was very exciting and it was very fun and it is very memorable. And the movie I really enjoyed very much so. So try to get those interviews up if possible. There's some technical difficulties, but we will get that interview up there as quickly as possible. So that's what I can say. But we're going to move on and talk about a little bigger topic. The main topic of today is the cancellation of one of Marvel Netflix most watched shows. That is Daredevil. And those who don't know, Daredevil was canceled after 3 seasons on Netflix. It was canceled so quickly and so stealthily that the writers of Daredevil all got together and was in the writing room writing and plotting out season 4 when they got the call they were canceled. So it not only took the fans by surprise, but it took all of the writers by surprise as well. Sadness. So much sadness.
Well, they I know they had the statement that said the character will live on in uh other projects. So, and then I did see on Twitter, much like when they had with Luke Cage and Iron Fist, the last tweet that would allude to the fact that it wasn't over yet. So, I understand the fans' anger, but I would also say that I've spoken to quite a number of people that have seen Daredevil season 3, and a lot of them had a lot of positive things to say. I thought the season was good, but there was some issues that I had towards the end of the season. But still a good season. I never would have imagined it gotten canceled. But when I heard about Iron Fist and Luke Cage, I think, okay, well, yeah, this is probably going to get canceled. We already know the Disney Plus service is coming, so it could potentially end up on there, or you know, perhaps Avengers. So, I mean, I think this is a good thing, but I do have some concerns about how it will be represented on Disney Plus, because I know that on Netflix it feels like, you know, all bets are off. You know, you can get as violent and as brutal as you can with all of these shows, and then the sex and all this other stuff. So how toned down will all of this be if it does end up on Disney Plus service is a question that I definitely have to ask myself. But obviously, I don't think this is the end of Charlie Cox as that character. I mean, I at least I would make a guess, because I can't think of anyone else that would do an excellent job in this particular role. So I'm curious to know what Marvel's plans are moving forward for the series. But I think we can definitely confirm now that Jessica Jones and Punisher will get canceled as soon as they finally debut on the network. Probably get canceled within a week or two after that. So
Yeah, there are a lot of different factors that come into this, and I know a lot of different theories. People are like, "Oh, it's going to be a Heroes for Hire." I don't think so. Then people are like, "Oh, it's going to just go for the streaming service." I don't think so. Remember, they Disney announced when they did Disney Plus, the streaming service is going to be PG-13. So any property that's PG-13 or PG is going to go on their streaming service, which means that you're not going to get any of the Marvel Netflix shows. What they could do is create a tier system. For those who want to see those shows, you would have to pay more. That could also be a possibility. But one of the things that you have to realize is that Netflix does not own the IP to any of the Marvel shows.
mhm.
Marvel owns the IP. So they're going to constantly be paying like these fees to Marvel in order for them to air the show, which means that they're going to compete directly against the Disney Plus streaming service. Now, why would you do that? It's not something that's going to make any sense or any kind of money behind that. So that is one of the reasons as to why they're canceled. Also, even aside from Daredevil, a lot of people, let's be honest, was you watching Iron Fist? No. Was other people sitting around watching Luke Cage? No. So these shows did not pull in a lot of streaming eyes. While Daredevil was one of their highest rated shows when it came to Marvel, it was not their highest rated shows when it came to Netflix as a whole. So that also plays into a factor as to why we don't need you anymore. Plus, Netflix is starting a lot with their very own property. There are a lot of TV shows that they are creating and a lot of movies that they are creating that is creating a lot of viewership and in turn a lot of dollars. Remember, they just signed Shonda Rhimes to $100 million deal. Kenya Barris is also moving down to Netflix. So they're going to create a whole new slot of TV shows and movies that they don't necessarily need Marvel for. So, also on top of that, we don't know what they're going to read, what Marvel itself is going to do with these properties. Yes, we can get a Heroes for Hire that goes onto the streaming service. But when they say properties, does that mean we're getting a new comic book series? Are they going to be in the movies? I know recently that the Russo brothers did, because they seem to be on like this talking press tour, where they, remember, they have 68 characters that they originally said was going to be in Infinity War Part 1 and 2. Clearly, we did not get 68 characters in Part 1. They already filmed Part 2. We don't know whether or not these characters were included in Part 2 in the initial round of filming. However, they did say that they are open to using those characters. They can easily come in for reshoots. Or anything else that they decide to do. You know, throw a Falcon next to a Daredevil on the poster. I don't know. You can live through your poster. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that are going on that people just don't know. Now, Marvel did promise more Daredevil adventures. They said Daredevil. They did not say Charlie Cox as Daredevil adventures. So that could be a toy line. That could be books. That could be a comic book. That could be a video game or an app, some type of app thing, or I don't know, a line of bookmarks. So that is open for interpretation. The only thing that we literally can do is wait and see. I'm not exactly sure how many people are excited for Daughters for Hire. I said Daughters for Hire. Daughters for Hire. The dragon. What is it? The daughters. The dragon daughters.
Daughters of the Dragon or something like that.
There you go. Something like that. Remember, we was also promised that, and then they kind of killed Iron Fist, which deserved to be slaughtered, but it kind of had a really good second season. Anywho, the point is, there were plans in the making that it was coming up. We just don't know what's happening. Now, Jessica Jones and Punisher has already filmed. They wrapped up. So we're getting another season of that, but that is it. They will be canceled after that. So enjoy it while it lasts. I honestly have no idea what's going on. I do know that Marvel, they put out a the press statement. They said that Marvel is extremely grateful to the huge audience that loved Marvel's Daredevil. From the moment of young Matt's first act of heroism to the birth of Paige, Murdoch, and Nilsson, it has been an unbelievable journey. We are incredibly proud of the amazing showrunners and writers, starting with Drew Goddard and Stephen DeKnight, Marco Ramirez and Doug Petrie, and Eric Olson and Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Woll, Eldon Henson, Vincent D'Onofrio. He gained all of that weight and you canceled him. Anyway, our cast who brought our characters to life with such excellence, and every one of the fantastic crews in New York City, we look forward to more adventures with the Man Without Fear in the future. So that's literally all we have. I know Iron Fist was like, yay, we love you all, something like that. But mainly people are concerned about Daredevil. No one really cares about Iron Fist or Luke Cage. Rest in peace. Especially when we got Black Lightning. Sorry, shots fired. But yeah, unfortunately, the only answer that we have is time will see. Time will tell what will happen with these properties. I just don't know. It's a very terrible thing to witness. It's basically a bloodbath, which probably explains why they released a trailer for Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, season 2 right away, because you're like, oh no, you're not going to Daredevil us. We're gonna get it out there right away.
You know, I was very surprised to see that.
Yes,
because
like, oh, no.
I mean, didn't that show just come on in October?
It literally It just came on, and they saw what was going on in the bloodbath, and he was like, "Oh, not today, Satan. We are coming out with our trailer, and we are filming. They are in production for season 2 right now, and they dropped that trailer to be like, dare us, try
I
us,
mean,
cancel us now."
I'm very happy for the actress. It's just that it happened a little bit sooner than I expected, than I anticipated, because I've never seen you. I have seen them announce like a show is getting renewed, but I have not never seen them just straight up. Oh, we already have a trailer for season 2. I'm like,
Here's the
well,
trailer.
damn.
They threw something together in that back office real quick, and they already announced season 2's release date, which is April 5th. So see, they are not playing.
Yeah, that's
No.
interesting.
Yeah, it it is very unfortunate. I don't know what's going on. But they also said that the relationship between Marvel and Netflix was very strained. There was a lot of creative differences that's been going on for a while now that we just weren't aware of. And as a result, some things you gotta just cut it loose. And it's yeah, it's sad. But it will not go to the House of Mouse. I do not see it airing on a streaming service. I just unfortunately, we're gonna probably just have to move on and just move on because there will be, remember, no mature content on the streaming service.
Yeah, that's that. Well,
But
that's rather
also
disappointing.
remember also Hulu, which Disney owns 30% of, it could go to Hulu.
That's possible.
It can
Yeah,
go to
sure.
Hulu and it can go to FX.
Oh yeah, FX. I forgot Legion is on
Legion.
FX.
You got
Yeah.
Legion, which is still going strong from what I know.
Okay, so maybe that's not bad news then. We
No,
have
and
to
it's
wait and
very
see.
expensive to put up those shows. Netflix right now, they're getting up there when it comes to their money. But, they're not exactly creating $100 million shows. And, you're not going to have $10 million that they're spending per episode like the upcoming Star Wars Mandalorian show. At least
Oh yeah,
right now. So, remember they got rid of the Get Down just for the fact that it was too expensive. And that was not a $10 million per episode show at
yeah.
all.
That's true. Um, I mean, I'm very curious to see what's the competition that Netflix is going to bring to the table now with losing all these other shows. And as you already mentioned, the Shonda Rhimes project is in development. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Stranger Things is getting the final season. I would assume season 3 in the future as well. But I don't know what other shows they have on their network that are going to be considered competition in relation to whatever Disney puts out on their streaming service. So I'm very curious to see exactly what they have planned long term that we don't know about yet, because they definitely got to have some type of strategy.
And then, crazy enough, we could just end up getting a Daredevil movie.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Yeah.
That's very possible. Although I will say, as I told you in another conversation we had, if something does not happen to Karen Page, whenever if they decide to bring back these characters, well, I will be very disappointed, and I will have something to say about that.
We'll just have one episode, a one-off episode where just Karen dies the whole time. Like a Happy Death Day crossover.
Something, and she doesn't necessarily need to die, but I feel like that character.
I'm cool with her dying. No, am I the only one?
Oh yeah, hey, listen, I'm totally fine with that. I know when we spoke about it on the show when we did our discussion on their Daredevil review. Yeah, I just felt like you gotta in order for the character to evolve, something dramatic needs to happen. I know they killed the priest that we've seen throughout the 3 seasons, but I felt like that character, he didn't really play that much of an important role in it, moving forward. Yes, he did get Matt to talk to his mother again. That was important, but I feel like it needs to be a more important character that's closer to Daredevil to really have him go through a change, so to speak. So, I don't know. That's just my opinion. And then, of course, they did all this building up of Bullseye now people want to see this guy come back or this character come back. But unfortunately, we will have to wait and see
If
that.
anybody comes back.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And it's just I feel really sad for the creators and the writers to know as you're working on a show, you no longer have a job.
Yes, yeah, that
As
is
your
that's horrible
project,
news.
that's just ruthless. And it's the holiday season's coming up.
Well, hey,
Cancel the show right before Christmas.
well, I know from personal experience. There's a lot of companies that will close jobs right during the holiday season. I know General Motors just did that recently as well. So this is a horrible time for that type of stuff to happen, but it does happen frequently, unfortunately.
Yes. And then like a punch to the face. It was pretty we discussed this before. Marvel is going to release on Netflix Infinity War on Christmas Day. So
Oh yes,
you can
yes.
watch Infinity War, which will probably be the only um property that will stream that's new on Netflix.
But you know that I did think about that a little bit more. That is a very smart strategy for Disney because if somebody sees Infinity War season one, if they see the first movie and now they want to see the second movie, oh well, now you got to get the Disney streaming service unless you watch it, go to the theater or whatever. But that right there is a smart strategy because now that I think that is the final, you know, middle finger to Netflix right there. Yes, we've only released part one of Infinity War, but for people to see the whole experience, they have to get the Disney streaming service. So I have to laugh at that decision.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of weird thing that's going on. But
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So remember they're pulling all of their property. All of it. So expect that Jessica Jones and Punisher cancellation coming up real soon.
Yes, this is coming, unfortunately. But hey, we'll see. Marvel has a plan, so hopefully, whenever they feel comfortable revealing that information, they'll let everybody know. Because I've seen nothing but backlash from this Daredevil news. I mean, I think we already knew that this was a possibility when the other two shows got canceled, but I see people are still complaining about this.
Well, here's the
So
weird thing. I saw a lot of mixed reaction when Iron Fist because it was like, yay, we want it canceled, but you waited too late and we kind of liked season two.
yeah, because the end of the season was interesting with
I
the
didn't see
direction they were
anyone
going.
complain about Luke Cage though. Not a single soul. And the way how it ended with, him possibly being a villain, it was like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
bad.
it's very interesting turn for that character.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I don't yeah. So, we'll just have to see what happens. It sucks, but it may turn around and be okay.
Maybe.
I don't know anymore.
I'm
I would like to.
I'm just surprised that they even though the production is already going on Jessica Jones, they didn't just decide, we're going to cancel these as well. Since they already canceled the script, what they were doing on Daredevil. I'm surprised they didn't just come out and say, well, Jessica Jones is also canceled and Punisher, even though we've already finished filming Punisher season 2.
This
So
would probably confuse people because if people think, I don't know, just random thought. If people think that it's canceled, then maybe they won't tune in to the next season.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they'll probably announce their cancellation during their next season when they stream to let them know you're not getting a season, what is it, 3?
yeah.
So yeah.
That's true. That's true. Anything is possible.
But it sucks. Poor Daredevil. Golly. But anything could happen. Fingers crossed. Who knows?
Yes, absolutely.
So, any final thoughts about the cancellation of these lovely services?
No, I look forward to seeing what Marvel has planned for the future. I don't believe that they have revealed I know they, a while back they revealed their plans for all these movies that they were working on. I don't think they've done that yet. So I will be curious to know what the future is for the upcoming films as well as these television shows and what else is going to get canceled. Because as you already said, Inhumans got canceled. So let's see what else gets canceled of the shows that we do not need to see anymore of. So maybe Runaways will be the next show to get canceled after season two bombs, or we'll see. But yeah, I'm just curious to know what their plans are moving forward, and hopefully they will communicate that to us in 2019 because I haven't seen anything else about what's going on moving forward. But we'll find out sooner or later.
So, moving on a sad note, our final topic is the death of Steven Hillenburg. Those who don't know, Steven Hillenburg was a cartoonist, an animator, and a marine biologist. But his main thing that he is known for is touching the hearts and minds of children and adults with SpongeBob SquarePants, the TV series. He died on Tuesday from ALS, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, which he first revealed his diagnosis back in March of 2017. Those who don't know, ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that causes the muscles to weaken. Many people are very upset, about his passing. There's been a lot of illustrators and animators who paid tribute to Steven on Twitter with their own drawings of SpongeBob. However, he wasn't just the creator. He was also the writer and the executive producer, and he directed several of the episodes. And he was heavily involved in the series. He was basically the mind of the show. So many people are wondering what'll happen now. Is it going to continue on Nickelodeon, or is it going to go away? Many representatives for Nickelodeon has stated that SpongeBob will not be over, at least not for right now. The show is not canceled, and that his creations will continue to bring joy to the kids and families everywhere. Ahead of his death, Hillenburg was still overseeing SpongeBob's production as it entered into the 12th season, which is set to air on, well, it aired already, the 12th season already aired, which is 26 episodes, so it's still airing. And those episodes would run through 2019. And it's also the very special 20th anniversary of the show. However, SpongeBob has not been renewed yet for its 13th season. Also, those who don't know, also there was a musical that just recently closed on Broadway, and it will just going on tour. And it is a third installment of the movie franchise, which is the SpongeBob movie. It's called It's the Wonderful Sponge. That is set to debut in 2020. It will still likely go on, and it will still continue to be released. But it's a very sad and tragic situation. I started watching SpongeBob. A lot of adults watch SpongeBob just because there's a lot of humor that is for adults, but not like South Park type humor. But there are a lot of underlying things that, as an adult, you pick up on. So it is very sad and very unfortunate that we lost Steven to this terrible disease.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely have to send condolences, rest in peace to the family that they're able to get through these tough times. It definitely is. I mean, I know all about SpongeBob because, well, I have watched the show more than a couple of times. I do have a lot of friends that were watching that ever since they were kids, so I know they definitely was impacted by this as well. Um, just never good news to hear about anybody passing. So definitely want to give my condolences to the family. And hopefully, all the stuff that he's done on SpongeBob, hopefully the character can continue to still live on, because I know there's a lot of fans, a lot of kids love the show as well as as adults, as you have said. So hopefully, it still can continue to move forward. But yeah, not good news to hear. And I know Stan Lee didn't pass too long ago either, so has not been a good year for people passing away. I have
It's
to say
never
that
a good
much.
year for people passing away.
Oh no, never.
But yeah, it's very sad. And yeah, two big deaths in less than 1 month span. What, like 2 weeks?
Yeah, yeah,
And
not
anyone who's
good.
interested, Nickelodeon is doing a marathon of SpongeBob, going all the way back to their beginnings. So
Oh, well, that's good. The marathon is good.
marathon is good. You can watch as much SpongeBob as your heart desires. And rest in peace to Steven. He will be missed. And that pretty much concludes our show. And then next week we will be back with me being able to talk about Aquaman.
Uh oh. Uh
And I
oh.
will say that there was a moment where I fell out of my seat laughing hysterically. That I can say.
Oh well, I certainly look forward to that.
I can say that. And you will be discussing your joy of Bumblebee.
Well, I'm not going to say that it's a. I don't really know what to expect from the movie, so I wouldn't say it's going to be the best movie of the year though for me. No, there's no way in hell because there's a lot of other movies on that list that I will reveal in the future. But
It's
yeah,
not the
looking
best
forward to it.
movie of the year for him. It is the best movie of the century for him.
Oh no, oh no, no. We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be. It's gonna. It will be somewhat decent, and I will admit that I look forward to seeing whether or not John Cena can actually play a heel, but to be determined.
That's right. This is his first heel role.
Yes, yes.
He turned heel.
That's what I want to see. Whether or not he pulls that off, or it's going to be a train wreck. So
I just want a scene when he's dressed in camo and he's like, "You can't see me." That's all I want. And I'll be happy with that. But yeah, that I we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't suck. We'll see. So next week we will have our reviews of that. So thank you to everyone who is listening and paying attention to us and tuning in. Thank you very much. Richard, do you have anything you would like to say?
oh no. Thanks for having me on the show, and I definitely want to thank everybody for their continued support. Um, the Patreon supporters as well. And yes, stay tuned for more thoughts next week. And hope that you all have a great week.
Yes. So thank you once again. I am Dana and I am with Richard Jr. of Baileyness. Thank you once again.
Thank you. We'll talk to you all next weekend.